Hello and welcome to Byjus Exam Prep IAS. Before we start with our today's analysis, a quick gentle reminder. Byjus Exam Prep IAS has already launched its official Telegram channel. What is that you have to do? Follow the link given in the description box or scan this QR code. This will take you to our official Telegram channel. Join the channel so that you get all the current affairs related updates. Let's get started and look into the first article. The first article says, choose safe surrender over infant abandonment. Let us try and understand what is this article all about. The author here introduces this article taking into picture two recent incidences that have happened in India. One is last month in Tamil Nadu, a 2-year-old girl was found alone in a government bus. The crying toddler was then handed over to Dharmapuri police station, which traced her mother with the help of CCTV footage. What did she do? She had abandoned her child. Then what we have is another instance where a 2-week-old boy was found abandoned in a closed tea stall in very inclement weather in Newtown, 24 Parganas district of the West Bengal. So these two incidences clearly point out that there have been large number of children who have been abandoned. There have been instances where they have been abandoned in garbage piles, dustbin, in the bushes by the right side, or places of the religious worship as well. This points out the bleak picture about the child abandonment. So this article here is speaking about what are the causes of it, if such children are abandoned, if they grow in the near future, what could be the likely consequences, how can we overcome this issue, is what is this article all about. First up, we have to understand what is this child abandonment. If we look into UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, Article 7 of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child clearly states that every child has the right to know and be cared by his or her parents. This basically means that if there is a child who is abandoned, not taken care by the parents, in all that cases, the very right of this child gets violated. So infants and young children are most at the risk of being abandoned, and whenever they are abandoned, what they go through is emotional and behavioral developmental issues. Then there are two types of abandonment. One is what is called as the open abandonment. The other is what is called a secret abandonment. What is this open abandonment? This is defined as a child being knowingly left behind by his or her parent who can be identified, and those whose intention is not to return but to willingly relinquish parental responsibility. So what does this mean? This means that we would be able to identify who the parents are, but they are not ready to take up the responsibilities of the child. As a result, they dump the child, they throw them in the dustbins, in the garbage pile, so on and so forth. So what we have is open abandonment, where you know who the parents are. Then we have secret abandonment, is defined as a child being secretly left behind by his or her parent who cannot be identified and whose intention is not to return but to willingly relinquish parental responsibility anonymously. Both these clearly point out it is not only the parents, even other relatives are not ready to take care of the responsibility of the child. They do not want to take care of this child financially, they do not want to take care of this child economically, and as a result, they abandon this particular child. If we look into the statistics point out that data by the National Crime Records Bureau show that no less than 709 criminal cases of exposure and abandonment of children under 12 years under Section 317 of the Indian Penal Code were registered in the year 2021. It is pertinent to note that no case is registered when a child is surrendered to the Child Welfare Committee constituted under the Juvenile Justice Care and Protection of Children Act of 2015, which is also called as JJ Act. So this clearly points out that number of parents had abandoned their child and cases were also booked under Indian Penal Code. This basically means that they did not want to take care of the child, and there have also been instances as well where number of children have also been surrendered under the JJ Act. Such is not reflecting under the National Crime Records Bureau. So this menace continues to haunt us. When you look into the JJ Act, what we have is the difference between the abandoned child and the surrendered child. What is this difference? Abandoned child basically means a child deserted by his or biological or adoptive parents or guardians who has been declared as abandoned by the committee after due inquiry. Surrendered child basically means a child who is relinquished by the parent or guardian to the committee on account of physical, emotional and social factors beyond their control and declared as such by the committee. So to simplify this particular process, what you have is a child. A child who is abandoned basically means that no one knows who the parent is, no one knows who will be taking care of this particular child. It is dumped somewhere in a garbage pile, so on and so forth, and no one takes the responsibility for this child. They do not know who the parent is. But when it is a surrendered child, they know who the parent is. The parent may actually come up to this particular committee and hand over this particular child to the committee under the JJ Act. So when we say abandoned child, they do not know who the parent is, they do not want to take any responsibility of this child. But when it comes to the surrendered child, the parent come up to that particular committee under the JJ Act, they surrender, but they do not want to take care of this particular child. So what are the causes of the child abandonment? If you look at the causes, it includes out of wedlock birth, lack of housing, employment, education, income generation. So if the parents, it can be the mother or the father, if they do not have the housing, they do not have the job opportunities, they do not have the education to take care of the child, they have no source of fixed income, that is one of the reasons why they may abandon the child. Lack of support on behalf of child's father, parents or other loved ones, fear of publicity and public condemnation. Let's say for example, if the woman has become pregnant and is given out of the wedlock birth, in that case the society may not accept that particular woman, so there is fear and phobia as well. So there have been instances where such children born are also dumped outside in public places. Birth of the child with developmental disabilities, let's say the woman has encountered that this particular child has disability issues, it can be Down syndrome or other forms of disease or malformation. In that case, the women can actually dump that particular child in an open place. Mother's vulnerability, it can be drug addiction, alcoholism. The same can also be with respect to the father as well. So parents are not able to take, and ultimately this becomes the major cause of child abandonment. So what are the primary causes? This basically includes poverty or financial hardship, being a single parent where the society may not accept that particular parent, postnatal depression, they're not able to come out of it, lack of sexual health education, they may engage in sexual activity without knowing about it, poor knowledge regarding the family planning, restrictions regarding to access to the abortion. So even if they want to abort the fetus, they do not have the opportunities, the government may not regulate properly, the judiciary may not regulate properly, and the child having some form of disability. These are some of the causes of child abandonment. If there is a child who is abandoned and it grows on its own in the society, what are the effects of abandonment on the children? So when it comes to the effects, the child who is born in such society will have anxiety disorders or symptoms, it will have attachment disorders as well, because the child would not know who its parents are, it would not know the love of the parents as well, it will stop trusting the relationship as well, and ultimately whether the child has to trust someone or not will also lead to attachment disorders. Then there is chaotic lifestyle, because there is no one to regulate that particular child, there'll be clingy or needy behavior as well, compulsive behaviors may develop as well, the child may go through depression as well, desperate relationship that can happen too fast, disturbances of mood, cannot self-regulate its own characteristic and experiences, emotions are comparatively extreme, lack of confidence, self-esteem issues, extreme jealousy, possessiveness, people-pleasing behaviors to the detriment of self, poor coping strategies, promiscuity, relationship problem and trust issues. All these issues may arise, and ultimately the child would go through its own state of mental depression and trauma, failing to realize how important the relationships are. So this article currently goes on to say that in order to overcome all these issues, instead of abandoning, what the parents can do is to surrender. As we initially discussed, when it comes to abandonment, it basically means that parents are just putting out the children in the public. They do not want to know who the parents are, they just want to eliminate that particular child from their lives, and in this particular case there is no one to take care of it. But when it comes to surrender, what exactly happens? In surrender, they go up to this committee under the Juvenile Justice Act, they surrender this particular child and ultimately relinquish all the rights with respect to that particular child. So basically, this article currently goes on to say that instead of abandoning that particular child, go ahead with what is called as the surrender under the JJ Act. Another key important factor the article also goes about speaking is with respect to the awareness. What is the major issue right now? Many people do not know that such surrender can be done. Yes, surrender can be done under the JJ Act to the committee. So the basic idea is people do not know about it, and as a result, an awareness about surrender should be given to the people. When you consider the ASHA workers, DAIs, the Anganwadi workers, they have a strong level network at the village level. These people should educate and sensitize about such incidents of abandonment to the people in the village as well. Also, the staff of the nursing homes should also be included under this particular program so that an awareness is given to the mothers. So what is the process to surrender? Although the surrender deed is to be executed before the CWC, a parent or guardian may approach any police officer, public servant, childline services, recognized non-governmental organizations, voluntary organizations, child welfare officer or probation officer, social worker or public spirited person, nurse or doctor, or management of a nursing home, hospital or maternity home when wanting to surrender a child. It shall be duty of such authority that we just discussed or officer to produce the child before the Child Welfare Committee within 24 hours, and non-reporting of abandonment within the prescribed time is a criminal offense. So what this article is requesting is, instead of abandonment, basically make use of the surrender, and this surrender will ultimately give a new life to that particular child. So this article can be concluded by saying that when it comes to abandonment, what we have is that particular baby is just thrown out in public, no one takes care of it, and this can also lead to death of that particular child. Instead, surrender to the committee under the JJ Act so that the baby can also be taken care of. Added to it, the government can also look at social and legal support as well, where employment assistance, financial support and shelter can be given to the women so that this baby can be taken care of, or psychological support can be given to the parent as well, where psychotherapeutic assistance can be given to the parent so that in the near future the parent does not abandon this child. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says the UK is starting into an economic abyss. Let us try and understand what is this article all about. Currently, when you look at United Kingdom, it is witnessing a grave economic crisis. One, the pound is tumbling. Two, the markets are in a state of panic, and there is staggering inflation as well, and this is also leading to the cost of living crisis as well. All this may not be with respect to Brexit. All this may not be because of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. All this may not be because of COVID-19. But in addition to all these factors, there was a recent update, a recent plan unveiled by the government of United Kingdom, where it said that there will be tax cut, and this has pushed United Kingdom's economy into a chaos. Let us try and understand what is this tax cut that the United Kingdom government is speaking about. When we speak about the recent tax cut, what exactly happened? On 23rd September, the newly appointed Chancellor of the Exchequer delivered a mini budget that sent shockwaves through the UK's economy. What is this mini budget all about? Quasi scrapped the top rate of income tax, so the income taxes were cut. They slashed the stamp duty as well. That is because they felt that property sales are not increasing in United Kingdom, for which they have to increase it. So slashing the stamp duty would increase the property sales is their perspective. Also, they abandoned a proposed rise in the corporate taxation as well. This meant that corporation taxes were also cut. Dozens of other policy measures came on top of a giant energy crisis fighting package roughly costed about 150 billion pounds. This basically points out that what they came up with is a mini budget. This basically means that UK is witnessing a biggest tax cut in 50 years. When you look at the last 50 years and beyond it, what we have witnessed is tax cuts in 1978, 1982, 1988, 1972, and the biggest tax cut after 1972 that we are witnessing is right now in 2022. The so-called mini budget has proposed tax cuts for the UK's highest earners and has also announced a rollback of the corporate tax hikes as well. Why did the government come up with such an initiative? There are two viewpoints to it. One, if we cut down the income tax, what would happen? People would have more money in their hands. If they have more money in their hands, they will start investing and move the economy. If they have money in their hands, they will also start investing in the system. If they have money in the hands, they will also buy new products and services as well. So what did they do? They cut the income tax, basically believing that if people have more money at their disposal, they would be able to spend in the market. The second is with respect to the corporate taxation. So the government basically believes if the corporate taxes are reduced, the corporate companies would be able to save the money and they would be investing back into the market. So basically, on one side, there was a cut of income tax, there was a cut on the corporate taxes as well, with an assumption that people would start spending, that companies would also start investing into the market so that there'll be growth of the economy. They also slashed the stamp tax as well. That is because they wanted to increase home purchases. With this particular outcome, what has happened? The market has entered into a mode of chaos. British stocks and bonds plummeted. The pound collapsed to historic lows against the dollar. Economists suggested that slump in the pound could also force the Bank of England into an emergency interest rate hikes to support the currency. So this basically meant that people were not happy with this particular response. That is because yes, United Kingdom happened to be a developed economy. People do trust the United Kingdom's government, but for the past 15 years, what we have witnessed in United Kingdom is not much growth. It has almost become stagnant for about 15 years and is facing the prospects of stagflation as well, which means there is high and persistent inflation with little or negative economic growth. Global markets by this responded by selling off UK backed assets and pushed the UK's currency, the pound, to its lowest ever value against the dollar. And in this particular backdrop, if you look at the highest ranking countries in the world in terms of the nominal GDP, what we have is United States of America, United Kingdom, Germany, China, Japan and India. And India recently surpassed United Kingdom to become the world's fifth biggest economy. What would be the impact when you look at United Kingdom right now? A sharp fall in the pound's value vis-a-vis the US dollar will essentially make the United Kingdom's import costlier. So if they are importing any product or the services, this will be way too costlier as well at a time when the economy is already struggling with historic inflation fueled by the skyrocketing prices of imported Russian gas in the wake of war in the Ukraine. So first major issue would be the import with respect to United Kingdom will become costlier. A sharp rise in the yield of the gilts implies that the cost of borrowing has shot up for the government. The government basically will have to borrow the money from the market to run its government, and that would become costlier. As winter approaches, many parts of Britain are bracing for a crisis because millions of people are not in a position to pay for the spiraling energy prices. In fact, poorer areas are preparing community centers as well to keep people warm during the winter. This energy crisis is basically because of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. They are not able to import the gas from Russia, and this is further hurting them. Inflation is also skyrocketing. They are not able to spend for the energy, and this is also increasing cost of living in United Kingdom. The other bigger problem facing the UK economy is that of the stagnant growth. As a result, what UK is witnessing right now is a grave economic crisis. In fact, we also have the International Monetary Fund as well. It has reported to have said that the new UK mini budget would increase the inequality in the society and undermine the monetary policy of the Central Bank of United Kingdom. So even the International Monetary Fund, which generally does not speak about developed countries or the G7 countries, has had a view that this will have a major impact on the United Kingdom. As part of the assignment, you have to put on the comment section what would be the larger ramifications of United Kingdom's economy on India as well as the global other countries. This article says the race to provide exhaustive satellite broadband services in India. This article here is speaking about providing internet services via satellite. There are different companies' name, its data, its statistics that is given. All that is not important from the examination point of view. All that we have to look at is what are the advantages of satellite internet communication. We also have to look at concerns as well. What are the various impediments for providing satellite internet communication and what are the challenges even if the satellite internet is provided. First up, what are the major developments when it comes to satellite internet communication? The two biggest developments in the global satellite communication space are the emergence of low Earth orbit constellations that promises to provide truly global coverage. The other happens to be lower latency service and high throughput satellite service which offers unprecedented capacity and flexibility. What are the advantages if satellite internet communication is provided? As of now, for most of the services, what we require is internet. If you are listening to this video, all that you require is the internet. Most of the internet as of now is provided by the optical fiber cables. What if there is an area where optical fibers cannot reach? Let's say there is a remote area or let's say there is a forest area. In all these cases, you will not have the optical fibers reach that particular place. But if we have the satellite internet communication, that internet would be able to reach that particular area, and ultimately what we would be able to produce is internet services in that particular area. As of now, there are multiple regions where optical fibers cannot enter because of the remoteness or it is a forest area or because of multiple other impediments as well. So in all those areas where internet cannot be provided, what we can make use of is the satellite internet communication. With this, what we would be able to cut down is on the digital divide. What is this digital divide? Let's say for example, we have the urban areas where we have the internet penetration, but when it comes to the rural areas, we do not have the internet penetration. So ultimately, with the satellite internet communication that we would be exploring in the near future, this urban rural divide may comparatively be reduced as well. This is the second advantage. The third is we have number of services. Let's say for example, e-governance applications like telemedicine. Police stations also require internet access. We have access to the land records. We have treasury. We also have multiple things, all the e-government applications that runs on the internet. But many remote places do not have these because they do not have the connection to the internet connectivity. As a result, when satellite based internet connectivity is provided to these remote areas, what they will be able to get is the e-governance advantages. So all those that are now not being given will be given in the near future. So e-governance will be provided. These are some of the advantages if we are able to provide satellite based internet communication. But there are various impediments to provide it. What are these impediments? One, we have number of satellite communication companies like OneWeb, Hughes Network System. This OneWeb had entered into an agreement with Russia. They wanted to launch about 36 satellites on Russia's Soyuz rockets. But Russia right now has cancelled its agreement. That is because this Bharati-backed company is a UK-based company. So they had entered into an agreement with the Russian company, but Russia has now declined to execute this particular agreement because one of its core company is also based in United Kingdom as well. So what we have is a problem, a delay in the execution of the project. So they were supposed to execute the project. They were supposed to put this satellite into the orbit as well. It is with this particular satellite they could could have provided internet-based satellite communication, but now Russia has cancelled the program. So what we will have is delay when it comes to the execution. Added to it, we have OneWeb, which is also partnered with the New Space India Limited. This New Space India Limited happens to be the commercial arm of Indian Space Research Organization, but they were supposed to have released Spacecom policy by the Department of Space, but that is yet not released, and as a result what we have is issues with respect to the execution. The major challenges when it comes to the execution is very low speed. Why? That is because when you consider the satellites, they are placed at a huge distance from the ground. So what we will have is very slow internet speeds. So when you consider the optical fiber connection, what they'll be able to provide is high internet speed. But now, since the internet is coming from the satellite, there is limited satellite bandwidth, and because of huge distances that they have to travel, what we will have is issues. So the first major issue, that it can be very slow in comparison to the optical fibers. The second is it depends on what kind of area that person is located. If a person is standing on the ground, there is no interference, which means the person is standing on the ground and all that he has is the space or the sky on the top. In that case, there is no interference whatsoever. In this case, the amount of speed that the person is reaching will be far excess. But what if there are obstacles? What if there are buildings? What if there is a huge tree or a forest area? So in this particular case, there are impediments, obstacles, and what we have is obstructions as well. In this case, the satellite signal will also reach the delay. And when we consider the emergency source via satellite might not also work in places above 62-degree latitude like northern parts of Canada and Alaska, and at the same time there will also be internet latency as well. This will not have much of impact, but what if it is a real-time application like a video chat? In that case, what you will see is a latency, delay of signal, and there could be mismatch as well. So real-time applications cannot take place under the satellite internet communication because the major problem would be latency. These are some of the challenges with respect to the satellite internet communication. This is all you have to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says UK firms ask India to unravel frustrating red tape, take broader view of lending norms. The article here is speaking about some of the issues that exist between India and United Kingdom when it comes to the trade policies. India and United Kingdom are planning to seal the free trade agreement soon. So we have the UK-India Business Council, which has pointed out some of the concerns with respect to the trade agreement. The first is with respect to the regulatory impediments. What are these regulatory impediments? This is to do with the government. So we have the bureaucracy. The bureaucracy is known for its red tape. So then we have the government, which has number of permissions that the government officers will have to give. There is a lot of ambiguity about these permissions. There is continuance of license and permit raj. This is the major impediment, says UK India Business Council. So what are the issues right now? One, when you consider, let's say there is a license that the government will have to give. What is the major issue? One is the departmental issue. For a particular license to be given, there might be a scenario where two departments will have to give the permission. Let's say, for example, there is Ministry of Commerce. Each department will have to give the permission. Then we have Ministry of Environment. There is each department which also have to give the permission. So there is two departments from two different ministries which have to give the permission. This is leading to a lot of delay. So at the central level, when permission has to be granted, this has to be simplified. There has to be one point of contact. As of now, there are multiple departments involved. This is leading to a lot of red tape, lot of delay. This is messing up the entire investment chain, is the first major criticism. The second is with respect to what is called as the concurrent list. Let's say, for example, there are certain permissions which have to be given by the central government. There are few which also have to be given by the state government as well. This is once again again leading to unnecessary delay. So on one side, they would have got permission from the central government to establish certain things, but this will also require the permission from the state governments as well. What if there are two different political parties, one at the central level, one at the state level, who have different political ideologies as well, one being a right wing, the other being a left wing political party, one supporting entrepreneurship, the other not supporting, so on and so forth. In that particular case, there will be a tussle between the central and the state government when it comes to the operation of the business. This is the second major impediment. So unnecessary duplicated regulations are a disincentive to the investment is the first major concern. So this article goes on to say that the recommendation is given by the United Kingdom India Business Council, where they say they have to reduce bureaucracy, simplify legal and regulatory complexities and taxation, and ultimately make sure that all these issues are addressed. The second is with respect to the intellectual property. What is happening when we speak about intellectual property? What we have is patents and the copyrights. We have the trademarks, we also have design, so on and so forth. What is happening of late? Many developed countries feel that India does not have a strict intellectual property regime. Let's say there is a particular design. This design can also be duplicated by one of the persons in India. The same can be exported onto the e-commerce platform, and ultimately that product is sold as well. So this article says as of now we do not have a stringent strict enforcement of the intellectual property rights. This has to be taken care of, says this article. The third is with respect to the land acquisition. Let's say there is a United Kingdom company. If this particular company wants to acquire a land and the central government has given permission, there are number of NGOs who may oppose it. This is ultimately delaying the process. There are number of other people who may oppose it despite the central government or the state government giving the permission. This company may also have invested the money as well. They would have invested on the land as well as on the building as well, but all of a sudden, because of large number of strikes that they witness, they would not be able to conduct their activities. So land acquisition process is tedious. This has to be reduced, says this article. The fourth is with respect to the tax rates. This article goes on to say that there is no equality between the foreign companies as well as the domestic companies. When it comes to the domestic companies, the effective corporate taxes are comparatively less. When it is a foreign company that is operating in India, the effective tax rate is comparatively on the higher end. So what they have to treat is domestic and foreign companies equally so that they also would be given entitlements is the fourth one. And finally, it also speaks about the priority sector lending in the banking system. So they are making a request that such priority sector lending, which is also associated and imposed on the foreign banking system, should not be done so, because the way of operation of the foreign banking system is totally different, and this should not be imposed on the foreign banks are some of the issues that they have discussed. We have to wait and watch what the government of India has to respond for this, but these are the issues pointed out by the United Kingdom India Business Council to the government of India. Now let's look into the next article. This article says drone from Pakistan drops heroin along border. This can act as a fodder for your mains answer writing. There have been large number of incidences which we have seen in Punjab. We have also witnessed in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir as well, where drones have been used. One is to drop the drugs, the other is to drop the arms as well, and now in a recent incident what we are witnessing is more than 3 kg of heroin was dropped near border area in Rajasthan, Sri Ganga Nagar. We have seen that in the past in Punjab and Jammu and Kashmir. What we are currently witnessing is in Rajasthan as well, and this can be a fodder for you to give as an example in your internal security paper in GS paper 3. The incident occurred in the intervening night of Saturday and Sunday. The sources said that heroin will be handed over to the Narcotics Control Bureau, and we also have the BSF who have fired this drone as well, but this continues to haunt the security forces along the border areas. Now let's look into the mains practice questions. Discuss the common reasons for child abandonment and suggest measures to help prevent such an abandonment. A combination of politics, inflation, and higher interest rates is posing a greater threat to UK's financial system. Examine. So please write all your answers on the comment section, peer review, and do give positive feedback to your friends' answers. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.